Well, thank you very much. There are so many aspects. We have about 9 minutes left, and I suggest to take some questions. So the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt, Mr. Fahmy.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker McCarthy. You've been surprisingly precise in your responses, and I thank you for that, because you've given us clarity in terms of where Trump will probably go, especially on his tactics, but also on some policy issues. But my question to you is beyond Trump, because both Thierry and yourself repeated that you have elections every 4 years. In my lifetime, working in America and otherwise, you've had Clinton, George W. Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, and Obama again. Where is America going in terms of what it wants to be in the world? Thank you.
You know, a couple things happen, and I get concerned about the whole world itself because it's not just happening into America. In the last 2 presidential elections, normally in America, presidential elections are aspirational. What's going to happen in the next 4 years? And people go out and vote for the policy that they want. In the election last time and the time before, people in America didn't go vote for somebody, they went to vote against somebody. And we just lived through COVID, okay? Something like COVID only happens once a century. And something that happens in that situation is most leaders in democracy lose, not because they may have done something he or she wrong, it's so life-changing. And so we have a difference there. This election was different. It wasn't close. The last election when Biden won, he got 82 million votes. But because we have electoral college in America, he only won by 42,918 votes. My number one wish in this election, that whoever won the electoral college also won the popular vote. That transpired. So I think there's a calming inside America, okay? But it's going to have to prove itself as we go. We got a tight margin in the House and the Senate. In America, you have to find compromise, but in today's world, we think there shouldn't be compromise, but you can't govern that way. Trump doesn't have a second term. Trump is not somebody who has risen up in the Republican Party. He was a Democrat too. He's not philosophically bent that he's just principled he'd only do his way. He can move a whole different way. And not having that second term, he doesn't have to worry about something. So I think there is a window here. For the first time in Trump's history, a poll came out today that he's positive. He's +2. He's never been in this place. America just had a poll on his cabinet. He's got a Kennedy in his cabinet. He's got Tulsi in his cabinet. We've never seen, normally a president will pick one person from the other party. That hasn't happened in the last couple. We've got people that were running for president as Democrats in his cabinet. So it is an opening of a window, and I think the American public is kind of tired of this. Impeach somebody because you disagree with them. So the first 6 months will tell us, had us as a public learned that lesson, but having the outcome that way was very decisive and has the opportunity to do it.
Jean-Claude Ruffat, and then Daniel Sheck.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I listened to and I watched on TV in the US the last interview the president-elect gave on CBS, I believe, when he answered a number of questions. And you addressed some of these questions. But he said 2 things that I guess people in this room would like you to comment on. One of them, he says, I don't trust anybody. And number 2, I expecting loyalty. Would you comment on these 2 statements from the president-elect?
Well, you've got to think, nobody has probably gone through as much as Trump has gone through. This guy he got held for trial that nobody else has been held up for. You see that in New York. And he had to overcome that. The first time he won, they put this whole issue about some Russia thing that it wasn't true, right? And so he feels as though I won the time before and you never let me govern, you made stuff up, then you threw me through court. And if you're sitting in the Democratic Party, they've got to remake themselves. They actually made Trump. Had they not prosecuted him, there's a chance he probably wouldn't have been the nominee.
Daniel Sheck.
Good afternoon. Thank you for that. Daniel Sheck from Israel. It's said that if there is one person on this planet to whom Benjamin Netanyahu can't say no, it's Donald Trump. How do you think he would or should use this very unique tool in order to resolve a conflict that has gone on for 14 months, which has incidentally cost the lives of nearly 50 Americans and includes 7 American citizens who are held hostage by Hamas, 7 out of 100? Is there something he should do even maybe before January 20?
I think his comments about the hostages being held, they better come home before January 20th. America's lived through this before with the Iran crisis. We've also found when Americans are taken hostage and we start paying for it, more Americans are taken hostage. This administration paid for it. Under Trump, we never paid for it. I think everything they do ahead of time to set the stage that if you want to have a reset, you ought to clean this up before the 20th comes. Instead of staying quiet and delivering that message, which I know is being delivered, I think is the greatest help that can happen. Because you think about it, it's gone on for 14 months with the same players. There is a new person coming in. You're probably a little more afraid of the new person coming in. So maybe you want to do something different.
So time is almost up, so
I'll give speed answers.
I will give a Japanese voice.
Yes.
But for a Japanese voice, even for a Japanese voice, you need a micro.
Yeah, Hiro Akita, Nikkei from Tokyo. Yeah, so Japanese Prime Minister Abe last time played golf 4 times and become good friend with Mr. Trump. But we don't have a good golf player to become Prime Minister again. So Japan worry about the Trump era. To be serious, I understand that Mr. Trump is a strong leader and have a lot of strength. But no leader is perfect. So my question to you is that what is a possible worst scenario that you can envision? And how allies should prepare for that? Thank you.
Okay. No one's going to say Trump's perfect by any means, shape, or form. Trump will not tell you that. But what he's doing is, he is a disruptor. And this is what I want to think. If you'd oblige me for one moment. The world in which he's going to become president in is different than the world that he had 8 years ago. It's a different China, and Xi Jinping is in a different position. What did he just do? He invited Xi Jinping to come to his inaugural. Come celebrate democracy. You may think, for everything that you think is wrong with Trump, there's also a method in setting something else up. We now have a world much like 1938 where you have this axis of evil. So you have an opportunity here that he's not perfect, but maybe he's the right person at the right time for the job. He doesn't need to learn on it. People do have relationships, and he had a great relationship before. The one thing I would give advice to every world leader, call him. He loves to talk to people. It is easier for me to get Trump on the phone than to get anybody on his staff on the phone. I talk to him every 2 days, in the morning and night. He loves to talk. And the other thing about him is, it doesn't matter if he doesn't like the person, he's still going to talk to you. If he attacked you, you look at everybody flocking down to see him that did things against him, he loves it. Come on in, right? And I think that's a different mode. Now, is he going to be different than people see before? Is he going to behave differently? Yeah. But we understand that and we know that about him. And I think the other leaders that have served with him before understand that. You might not like the tone that he delivers something, but 9 times out of 10, there's a lot of truth to what he's delivering.
So I allow myself the last question, very different. How, as a very experienced politician, how do you explain that the media and the poll companies have been so systematically wrong about Trump?
Because they have Trump syndrome. They don't like him. They don't want him to win. But everybody polls, when they poll Trump, they poll him wrong. He always performs better than what he is, and it's just to place out. But this is the thing you have to understand. The Republican Party didn't have a great election. Trump did. We lost seats in the House. And it was a good year for Republicans. If you look at the Gallup poll, for the first time in history, more Americans identified as a Republican than a Democrat. That has never happened in the history of the Republican Party, or the history of the American country. So it was a good time to run. Trump also brings a little populism in. And if you look at the media is upside down. And this is where Trump is kind of probably the last American president who was developed by television. Like, we knew Trump before he ever ran. He was a strongman brand. He was on Apprentice. He fired people. And so what is the timing of when you're running? That we're frustrated with government. We think somebody should be fired. We think you're not doing your job, and no one ever gets fired. So we put somebody in who's willing to fire. We think government has come too big that tries to tell us how to raise our children. So we want somebody who's going to be a little bombastic at times. Otherwise, the nice person isn't going to make a change. But the part I will tell you is, he was also smart enough, instead of worrying about going on CNN and getting 400,000 viewers, he would go on Joe Rogan and get 20 million people. He would go do a TikTok or something else that would actually go to people that you had no idea who they are, but had an unbelievable following through the youth. He's intuitive about people. And I think if simply looking at a campaign, he had less money, he had a disadvantage, and he ran a much better campaign. At the end of the day, you knew what he would do. He would secure the border, he would go after inflation, and he'd stop the war. Kamala spent $1 billion, and the only thing I knew she was going to do is give you a $25,000 bonus if you bought a house.
So I propose to end this session with one new slogan. After Trump, Kevin McCarthy for president.
Very kind.
Thank you very much.